What's up, YouTube? This is Lyle from Adrenaline DFS. We are doing the Week 6 slate for the NFL DraftKings season. We are joined by special guest Vincent once again for the second appearance on the channel. What's up, Vincent?
What's going on, man? Glad to be here.
Sounds like a lie, but welcome, brother. All right. So what we'll do, like we did last time that he was on the show, we'll break down the games. We'll go through like the Vegas totals and whatnot. And then we'll go down through each position basically and just break them down a little bit on who we like and who we don't like and why and whatnot. So, first of all, let's start with this goodness right here. We're going to just go through and just go over some of the team totals and whatnot so that, you kind of want to target the high total games. Where the heck did my pen go? Loose me pen, mate. All right, here it is. All right, so number one team this week projected right now for points is wild to even think this, but Kansas City. Their live projected total right now is 29.5. Baltimore coming in at number 2 with 29.25. What else we got? What else? I think Arizona 27. Oh, it's not Arizona, even though I marked Arizona. It's Atlanta coming in at 27.25, and the Rams at 26.75. Game totals, which is if it's a high game total, like the Houston Kansas City game, the number one probably stackable game this week. People will be all over this game. It's a 55 over and under live right now, which is pretty high total. 52 for Atlanta and Arizona, and 50.5 for San Francisco and the Los Angeles Rams. From there, you like any of those games, brother?
Yeah, obviously the Kansas City Houston game, it's hard not to get sucked into that one because it just uh, spells points. I'm surprised to hear that Houston's not up there in the top as well, especially seeing Kansas City's defense get ripped apart by the Colts last week. I know a lot of that was on the ground, but I just think Houston's much more prolific than the Colts are, and that game I just feel like spells points.
Yeah, they're they're not way down there. They're at 25 and a half team total, but they're still like 7th or 6th behind everybody, which is weird, but whatever. I'll gladly take Houston's passing attack over most of these other people, but yeah. So let's dive right into the quarterback position. We'll say this like we say every week. Pat Mahomes, if you can afford him. Oh, I guess last week it wasn't so much so, but he wasn't on the slate either. But if you can afford him, dude's the best quarterback in the league fantasy wise right now for sure. He's he's projected at 14.4 ownership, so which is weird because that's the highest on the slate right now. And normally the most expensive quarterback isn't the number one quarterback. Like, as far as like ownership, he's projected like 27 points. So if you can get Mahomes in there, get him in there. If you're only running one lineup, it's who you just have to have, in my opinion. How you feel on Mahomes, Vincent?
I am going to be honest. I feel like Mahomes at that price point is going to depend on who's playing. Is Tyreek Hill going to play? Is he not going to play? Sammy Watkins is out. I watched last week's game. Kansas City lost to the Colts. The Colts aren't a pushover. I think he'll still get his points in, but with some of these other quarterbacks up here, I don't take this with a grain of salt. I'm not saying don't play Mahomes. He is going to have points. There's no doubt about that. He is going to have points. Will he be the highest scoring? If he has Tyreek Hill in there and, he's got other guys around him that he can spread that ball out. Kelsey's obviously playing. He's going to be great. he has the potential to be the highest scoring quarterback. Especially, I feel a lot better if Tyreek is playing. If Tyreek's not playing and it's all Robinson, Hardman, um, Pringle, I don't feel as confident
Yeah.
as for him to be the top scoring quarterback.
Yeah, I agree. I will have Mahomes in a decent amount, but if Tyreek Hill is playing, I will have him in more than a decent amount. I will be above the field on his 14.4% if he is playing, since I'm limiting my quarterback rules or limiting my quarterback pool this week. So definitely be on him. Just yeah, what like Vince said, depending on if Tyreek Hill. It's basically just Tyreek Hill that matters at this point, because we all know how crazy good he is. From there, the next highest projected owned player, quarterback, I mean, is Matt Ryan coming in at 6,400. Um, Atlanta's going to be another really high owned team from from Matt Ryan to Julio, and probably I haven't checked Calvin and Sanu, but I think Austin Hooper is also projected to be the number one owned tight end. So that's going to be a super high owned team. Um, which I like. I mean, these guys at the top right here, I'm actually high on all of these guys right here, I think. Yeah, so I'll be honest with you. I'm not playing any well, I won't say that at all. So I'm on Mahomes, Jackson, Watson. I really my sneaky play, I mentioned it to Vince prior to the show. Um I think my sneaky play, Vincent, is Russell Wilson. Um, he's getting what's the ownership? It's crazy. He's at 4.7% owned right now. They're going against Cleveland, who I don't know. I think they're overrated. You know, I don't. I'm starting to jump off this Cleveland bandwagon, but I'm not definitely feeling the vibe of Cleveland right now. How do you feel about Russ as a
It's funny you say that because you didn't tell me who it was before we got on this call, and I snuck Russ into my list. And I said before this call, I'm going to drop some Lyle facts. Um, Definitely talking about Russ.
okay?
So I like the ownership percentage. I learned this this past week in a bet that Russ Wilson is the has the most touchdown passes of all quarterbacks right now. So, I mean, you take that, you mix it with Cleveland's defense is not very good, and we're seeing it. I mean, their offense should be good, but I don't know, it's not. Their defense definitely isn't. So I'm high. I don't want to say I'm high on Russ because of even though he is the leading passer of touchdowns this year, they also run the ball 27 times a game. So if they get up on Cleveland, I expect to see. You know, you'll notice I have Carson in my list for running backs as well. But I'm not fading Russell, and I love the fact that he's low ownership projections. He can also do damage on the legs. I always like that. You know, there's a chance that he gets that little rushing touchdown, giving him 2 extra points over that passing touchdown. So definitely do think he's sneaky. I do think people at the price range he's at are have their eyes on other people like Matt Ryan versus
Yeah,
Arizona, or Deshaun Watson, or Lamar Jackson, or Patrick Mahomes. All of them, I mean, within $1,000 pretty much of each other.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I think Russ is a sneaky guy.
I think that's why he's going so under owned too, is because of the price range where he's at. He's mushed in between all the top owned quarterbacks. Um, which so obviously in a game stack, that game is the most unappealing compared to the other ones. You know, with Lamar Jackson going against Cincinnati, who was just god awful. And then the Mahomes Houston stack, and even the Atlanta Arizona games. All those defenses are suspect. Maybe not Houston's as much, but it's Pat Mahomes, so you're suspect. It doesn't matter. The only thing I'm worried about with Mahomes, I forgot to mention, is that the Lions basically put out the game plan on how to stop him, and so far, 2 weeks in a row, it's worked. We did it. They obviously beat us. It is what it is. But the Colts mirrored it, running man to man against them. So we'll see how that goes. But with Tyreek Hill, yeah, good luck running man to man against that guy. You're just not fast enough. And if you are fast enough, top line speed, you're not quick enough. So that was another thing I forgot to mention on Pat. The only cheap quarterback that I will even think about putting in my lineups this week is Gardner Minshew. We all love the freaking stash, my guy. I like Gardner. He wears my number. My guy. He's only 5K, and he's coming in at 6.6% ownership, so higher than Russ a little bit. He's only projected 16.8 points, but a Gardner with like maybe a Chark stack here and there won't be too bad. But I'm not. I'm basically fading everybody else other than the top guys.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't put Gardner Minshew into my list, but I looked at him. And I basically just said, I guess if I were going to go lower, yeah, I'll take a shot on him. But there's nobody else down here that I'm like, man, I'll take a shot on him. It just doesn't make sense. And even like how I know you hate Cleveland, and I know I like Cleveland, but just the matchup just doesn't make sense. Even if I did like Baker with all the weapons around him and thought that he might, maybe this is his breakout week, right? Maybe he gets it together. The matchup just doesn't make sense. You're playing against a team that runs the ball 27, 30 times a game. Um, probably more, probably closer to 40 between all their backs.
Yeah.
Um, it just doesn't make sense. So there's not much. Maybe you take a shot on Jared Goff. There might be some appeal with Jimmy Garoppolo, but even then, you get up in again towards the $6,000 price range, and why not swap out for one of the top quarterbacks?
Right. Yeah.
You know,
I do have Goff on my list that I am gonna play. I didn't mention him, and I also have Dak on my list that I'm gonna get to some because they're playing the Jets. But like, Baker Mayfield is in a bad situation. It's weird that I'm bringing up how I think he's gonna have a bad game, but I also have another thing I want to drop on you in a little while that you'll understand where I'm coming from. But if you're gonna try to get to Baker, just get to Goff, Prescott, just get to somebody else. In my opinion, um, Seattle's defensive line is nothing to be played with. And you see how bad Baker's taking sacks this year. He just looks terrible, man. He just doesn't look good. Um, so yeah, I can't get the Baker this week. I don't think. You never know with me, I might sneak a one or two lineups in there. But yeah, any other thoughts on quarterbacks at all?
not really. I mean, quarterback was the most clean cut to me. We didn't talk about it. We didn't really mention it, but I do really like Lamar Jackson this
Yeah.
week. Obviously, Cincinnati's just horrendous. I say trash, but I feel like that's being mean to them.
They're trash.
They're trash.
Sorry.
Uh, Lamar Jackson is a unique play for me this week. I did it week one. He's a quarterback that I would consider not stacking with anybody outside of maybe the tight end, or I would even consider, just because of how this game might go, um, stacking with a running back. It sounds crazy. It's just that bad. So depending on where your money is with running back, it's possible that I would throw Lamar Jackson as my quarterback and Mark Ingram as my flex, or something like that. It sounds absurd, but this game just, it's going to get out of hand. Like you said, I think Baltimore is the second highest
Yeah.
first point total.
Yep. By 0.25. Yeah, they're
Okay,
nice.
so I mean they're looking to score points, projected to score points. I think that it's going to happen on the ground, and I think it's going to happen a lot. And I think
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson's going to have a lot of points. I think he could be the highest scoring quarterback.
Yeah. I'm just worried about him without Marquise Brown.
Yeah,
Other than that, because Marquise Brown, if you have him in your pool of people to play, just take him out. He's dealing with that injury. Um, he's going to be limited in snaps if he does play. And we'll say this probably every time we do a show or if you talk to any one of us in person. If you have opportunities, then you can produce. You can't produce if you're on the sidelines. So there's no sense of playing somebody that's going to run. Now, I guess with him in week 1, you can be like, well, he only played 14 offensive snaps and scored 3 touchdowns and all this good stuff. But like that's not going to happen again. When he gets on the field, he is a focal point of the defense now. It doesn't matter. I just don't like it with him. But I do like Lamar Jackson. He is probably my number 4 quarterback this week, but it's still like I still want him in like 15 to 20% of my 150 lineups. Um, Dude's a stud at running the ball. You know how I am with him with throwing the ball, but he's a fantasy producer, man. He is. Um, I don't hate the Mark Ingram stack this week either with him. I don't love it by any means, but the only other pass catcher I would justify maybe putting in is Willie Snead with him. So I'll definitely have some Willie Snead shares with him, but other than that, man, it's gonna be I'm gonna run him naked a lot by himself with probably like the Houston Kansas City game or some crazy stuff. But yeah, so I like him though. Definitely have him high on my list. He's projected, just so you guys know, at what is it, 10.7 ownership too. So he's the fourth highest projected owned quarterback, and also projected to score the second most highest, behind Pat Mahomes by zero point 0.5. So, let's jump to the RBs, man. The R&Bs. Um, I mean, we can go on and on forever about these guys probably because we're kind of blessed right now with running back talent in the league. Like I felt a few years ago that it died down, and we were like, me and Vince have these conversations about things like where you hit a point and you're like, oh no. Like when Peyton Manning retired, it was Peyton Manning and Tom Brady, right? And you still had Drew Brees, but Drew Brees wasn't like my kind of guy. You know what I mean? I just love Peyton Manning. And like when they were gone or when he left, I was like, dude, NFL is changing. And all of a sudden, here comes Pat Mahomes and Lamar Jackson and Deshaun Watson and Mitch Trubisky. I'm kidding. He's trash.
Hmm.
Um, but
Awesome.
that's how I was feeling about running backs like 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Like they were dying down, and then we get Kamara, we get Fournette, we get Delvin Cook. Like I feel like running backs as deep as it's ever been for fantasy football. How you feel about these
For
boys?
sure. And as much as they've devalued the position, they're becoming more and more versatile. I think they're producing or changing their game at a younger level to become not just a pure runner, but to become a pass catcher and receiver as well to increase their value in the NFL. So we're seeing these running backs like Christian McCaffrey who are on the field almost every snap, lining up in multiple positions. So I agree. I think it's as deep as it's ever been. Um, I even go through a little bit of struggle with myself now of like, is it worth taking a pure runner because you have running backs that line up all over the field.
Yeah,
And sometimes it's hard to take that pure runner. There are a few examples of times you should do that, like Leonard does get passes, but he's a pretty much a pure runner and he's worth taking.
because he gets
Um,
100% of the snaps.
yeah, if he's on the field, if he's on the field and the team runs the ball, I mean, opportunity, right? That's what we
Yeah,
talk about. So,
definitely. Um, with you mentioning that, I actually missed a guy that I wanted to bring up today. Who I'm never high on, and he's a good running back, but he doesn't catch passes, or anything. But so just to go through real fast, the highest projected. I don't know if you know this. Did you look at projections, like ownership projections today?
I did. Did I see? I think I saw. Was it Le'Veon Bell at number one?
Yeah, Le'Veon Bell is projected to be almost 30% owned, which I'm not really understanding why.
I think
Dallas
it's got to be
isn't
his price point,
terrible.
man. It's got to be his price point.
I guess it could be 6,400 when you got like an eight, like I guess yeah, 2,100 more for Zeke, 20 or 2,000 more for Dalvin Cook. I guess I could see that then coming. That's probably why. But he's projected only 19.9 points, but he is kind of cheap. I don't hate him this week, but it's nobody that I'm gonna like. Like I did a crunch prior to the show, and it actually was for FanDuel, but I got 90% of him in my 150, and I was just like, okay. but it's got to be the price point. Fournette was number two at 22%. Um, and Fournette, we talked about this. It's like, man, I don't want to. It's hard to take Fournette when he was playing with Blake Bortles and stuff because like they would just stack 8 or 9 men in the box and just pound on him, dude. And people are like, "Oh, he's trash," or they're saying he's not a good running back. But what are you supposed to do when you get hit in the backfield? Right when you get the ball. But I actually like Leonard Fournette this week at 6,700. They're playing the Saints, they're playing great. They're just playing good football all around. They're probably the best NFC team right now. Them in Green Bay. But I would still give the edge to New Orleans because they have Drew Brees coming back and they also have Alvin Kamara. But Leonard Fournette against them is a good play in my opinion, and he's on the field so much. How do you feel about young Forney?
I have Leonard Fournette on my list, and in this lineup of running backs this week, um, price for performance, I think he's my clear cut um, play because he's about 2,000 less than some of the other top tier talent with the Dalvin Cooks or the Zekes. Um, and he's been producing ever since Gardner's come in and started the ball around. I mean, we've seen Fournette touch the ball 20 plus times. Over the last, just looking at it right now, over the last 2 weeks, 23 and 29 attempts. He had that 225-yard game. He had over 100 yards last week. First time he got in the end zone all year. I expect that to continue. And they've actually been targeting him in the receiving game as well.
Yeah.
It's not normal to see that out of him, but I'm okay with it. You throw him the ball, give him the ball 100 times. I am all on Fournette. Um, I think he's going to have a good week. If he doesn't, it's not first, it's not lack of trying. They're going to try to get him the ball. I do think they believe he is the rock in that offense. And then that opens up things for Minshew and just good things happen. I like Jacksonville's team, man. I think they got something going right now.
Yeah, I agree. I do like Jacksonville. They got to get Jalen Ramsey out of there because he's just being, a diva. You don't normally see that out of cornerbacks. It's normally the receivers and whatnot. But Jacksonville does have something good brewing there, and I like Gardner Minshew. He wasn't a super high rated player coming out. He actually was older than normal, I think, when he came out, like a normal quarterback would be. But he's handling Jacksonville well, and that's why I like Fournette. Like if this was the same spot in Blake Bortles or I don't know, we don't know what Nick Foles was going to be, but if it was Blake Bortles at quarterback, I would just stay away from Leonard Fournette every game because he's just going to get pounced on. Um, so I do like Fournette. See, where should we go next? Let's just get this one out of the way. Um, Malcolm Brown is going to be super high owned for reasons that he's, what was it, 4,300? Yeah, he's $4,300. He he used to, not so much as not so much anymore, but he used to take so many premier snaps from Todd Gurley. Like he used to be the biggest hawk in the game. Um, but now this is his time. He's gonna get the rock basically as many times as Todd probably did, which isn't enough, and we both agree that I'm pretty sure. But he should see 15 to 20, maybe 25 carries. Probably not 25, but if they're whooping the crap out of them, he could see 25 carries in this game. $4,300. You're gonna get 12 probably out of him at least. That's what 3x, almost 3x, just for that. And then if he gets in the end zone, you should be golden. Like I said, he's the what is he? Third highest owned guy right now at 18.1%. Um, how do you feel about him this week? Are you on him at all?
I think I have to be.
Yeah.
Um, there's not really a way around at least throwing him in some because you know what? Perfect example of this is when Saquon went down.
Yep.
I kind of faded Wayne Gallman
I remember that.
because he was going to be super high owned, and everybody was 4,500. I think was the same price, actually even more.
A little bit, yeah.
On a worse team, and I was like, what if he doesn't? Because if he doesn't, then he's probably not that great of a running back, and I don't want to be stuck with somebody in all my lineups who doesn't produce. But he ended up having a field day that week, and the Rams offense is so much more powerful than the Giants offense, especially in the passing game. Not to say that they don't run the ball, they have better receivers. I don't want to say they have a better quarterback necessarily, but they have probably an equivalent quarterback if Daniel Jones is what Daniel Jones is supposed to be, at least. But they have a play caller who's not scared to take risks and throw the ball and sling it around, and that opens up gaps for running. I do agree that Todd Gurley didn't get the ball enough, doesn't get it enough. I do agree Sean McVay doesn't run the ball enough, but I can't argue that he isn't. He'll mix it up. He'll get the ball into Brown's hands, and we've seen him score touchdowns already this year.
Yeah.
I think that continues. He might not get in the end zone, but if he does, he's a great play. He will get the ball though. He'll get the ball 15 times at least. I don't love that number, but with that
4,300.
offense, how do you not? For that price point.
Yeah.
So I'll be on him a little bit. I hate it. I feel very Wayne Gallman or Gallman, Gallman again.
Gallman.
Where I want to fade this guy so bad, but I'm not going to make that mistake again.
Yeah, just in case. You don't want to be 18.1% behind the field, just in case he goes off. So, we talked before the show. You told me a guy's name. Let's hear it.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. Before I get to him, I'll touch on one other guy who, just real quick, nothing major. I touched on it a little bit earlier, but Chris Carson is somebody I think that will play well.
Okay.
Having 27 touches last game, 22 touches the game before, averaging about 4.5 yards a carry. If he could just hold on to the freaking ball, dude fumbles too much, but if he just hold on to the ball, they give him the ball. He's had 22-point games without getting into the end zone. So I expect in this matchup, he's going to get the rock quite a bit. But the guy that I mentioned earlier, who I know you winced when I said it, but if ever you're going to play this guy, this is the week. And his ownership, I don't even know what it is, got to be next to nothing.
I got you.
But it's worth taking a shot on Adrian Peterson. I know he's over the hill. He has not done anything all for the most part. Let's pull him up. AP
0.9%.
0.9%.
No,
6.9. Okay.
Which is higher than.
Oh God, I thought you said 0.9. Higher than what I would expect to, but 6.9%. Playing Miami, arguably the worst team in the NFL, maybe one of the worst teams I've ever seen play in the NFL. And Washington just, the interim coach, they just fired Jay. They have the interim coach, Bill Callahan, who I apparently literally believes that the game's more about attempts rushing than efficiency running. So he's made it very clear he wants to get the running game involved and establish the running game regardless of the efficiency of the running game, which means it don't matter if AP's breaking off big runs or not. He's still going to feed him the ball. And so when we talk about opportunity, AP is never going to have a better opportunity than this week.
In the rest of his career, probably.
The rest of his career. Yeah, you're probably right. It's a perfect matchup, a perfect scenario for somebody who wants to take a flyer on AP because he's been so bad so far. He's not. If he has a good game this week, people are going to say, "Oh, they gave him the ball 30 times last week and he produced 20 points." People are going to play him. So it's worth a shot. I'm not saying put AP in all of your lineups. Please don't, because that will be a mistake. I mean, maybe not, but more than likely, you don't want to fill your lineups with Adrian Peterson. maybe a flex play, running back 2. I think it frees up some salary for you. He's only 40. Um, his his projections are at 11, but I put him a little bit higher. I mean, it really is going to depend on whether he gets in the end zone. They don't involve much in the pass game. This is one of those situations where it's like, hey, he's a pure runner, and they don't throw him the ball much. And hopefully, Bill Callahan stands behind his word, and they feed him the ball 20 plus times, and he gets 100 yards and a touchdown, and gives you 20 points at 4,500. That's just, I mean, you're 5 times your salary at that point.
Yeah. When you talked about it before, I was like, eh. But like we said, we did say like we kind of agreed there that it's the prime position for him to be in. So I will definitely go with Vincent's word and take him a little bit. I don't think I'll actually get to 6% of him. Out of like 150, I might get to about 4 to 5%, which is still okay. Um, for just in case, you know. And Vince mentioned he's 4,500. His mic cut out. I don't know if it cut out for the video or not, but he's only 4,500 too. So there's only one other running back that I want to touch on before going to a few little just oddball plays at running back, like just in cases, I guess you could say. Um, it's weird that you mentioned AP because I like Derrick Henry this week against Denver, and I don't like Derrick Henry. I think he's an Alabama running back. He's not good, but he's huge, and Denver can't stop the run. They just can't. They actually might be the worst. I don't want to dive into crazy numbers right now, but they're not like good at all really. Um he had 78 yards and a touchdown against Buffalo, who's a stud defense. Like they're pretty stout. Um I see him getting the rock probably 23 times, I'm guessing, just 20 about 23. The game should be close. Tennessee's defense is pretty dang good. Denver's offense isn't crazy good by any means. Some of the receivers have pretty decent numbers, but their offense still struggles to score tons of points. I really like Derrick Henry coming in pretty cheap too. Lower, he's actually lower owned than AP. Where is he at right here? He's coming in at 6.6%. He's also 6,100, so he's more expensive than AP. But I like him for a little bit of kind of a off the wall guy kind of guy. Um, the other guys I wanted to touch on real fast before we get off this subject is the running backs named Kamara and Johnson. I don't know if they're gonna play. My best guess is that if they do play, they'll be limited. I am taking them both out of my player pool. I don't want David Johnson at half the snaps that he gets normally, and I don't want Kamara at half the snaps he gets normally for the price tag that they're sitting at. If they are out, you have to check because maybe around noon. Chase Edmonds is a must play in my opinion. If David Johnson is out, Latavius Murray isn't a must play in my opinion. If Kamara is out, but I still will get to some of him because he is only 3,700. So that means you can stack more in that Kansas City game or whatever game you want to get into. Um, but how do you feel about those two guys if they go down, or how do you feel if they're active? Oh no. Well, Vince left the call. That's tremendous. There he is.
I lost you there for a minute, man. Yeah, I lost you for a second. So
Yeah,
I
you're good.
heard, I missed what you were saying. So I heard Latavius Murray's not a must play. We're talking David Johnson and Kamara. Um, kind of lost where you're at with after
Yeah,
that, but
I was just
I
asking you
agree.
how you feel about Edmonds and Murray. Murray's only 3,700. How do you feel about them if they don't play, and then how do you feel about them, Johnson and Kamara, if
Kamara.
they do play?
Um, that's a good question. This is a tough question. All right, so I'll start with if they don't play. Um, Atlanta's defense is terrible. Just week in, week out, I just watch them just get torched. I don't understand it. Keanu Neal's out for, I don't know, is he out? I didn't look. I knew he got hurt.
I don't think they put
I
him on
assume he's not
IR,
playing.
but I think he's
Okay.
out for a bit.
Yeah, he's not playing. Um, their defense is banged up. It's already not good. They're already on the hot seat. Their team should be better than what it is. It's not, unfortunately. So I expect that Arizona will be able to do things. Um, the only scary thing is the matchup is unique, and this is nitpicking too much, but Arizona runs a spread type offense, four wide, right? Atlanta's defense is fast. They might not be good, but they're fast. So when you start spreading stuff out, I think it works to Atlanta's favor. Edmonds, I probably play him because he's cheap. David Johnson, I probably fade him. Um, and I think you can get enough value if he's cheap. If he's at the price, what did you say Edmonds' price point is?
4,600.
3,600.
46.
Yeah, they're the 36, 4,600. I'm playing him either way.
Yeah.
I think his price point. You have the opportunity to put up really good points against Atlanta, especially if he gets involved in the passing game, which typically Arizona gets their running backs involved. Kamara, not I don't like him if he's on a snap count. Latavius Murray, that's a tough one. Is it just a conspiracy theory that Latavius Murray is now potentially a starter and Teddy Bridgewater?
Oh man,
Mm,
that's deep.
just saying, man. Just
That's
saying.
deep.
I don't think Latavius Murray does much. I think if I'm Jacksonville, I'm stacking the box against Teddy Bridgewater. Make that dude throw the ball deep. Um, None of this. You're not running up the middle on me with Alvin Kamara, Latavius Murray. I'm bringing my defense up. I'm making you play deep ball with me. So I don't know. I'm not the coach though. So
Right.
Jacksonville's defense, I think, should be better than what they are, even without Jalen Ramsey. I think their front four at least are pretty good. I don't mess with it either way. I think how much is Latavius Murray?
He is 3,700, I believe.
He's going to be in a couple lineups if Kamara doesn't play.
That's exactly what I said. Like while you're talking, I'm like, man, he doesn't run. So we don't like him personally, right? We don't.
No,
like
I
don't
hate
like
the
him.
way he
Yeah.
runs.
Okay, so he runs like straight up. Like he keeps his back straight. He gets hit hard when he gets hit. We don't like him as a runner, but for 3,700, if he's the number one back, I mean, you cannot not play him just in case he Wayne Gallman's Vincent.
Yeah.
Because with that, I don't know. He'll be in some of mine, but it won't be like, I'm not gonna lie to you. If David Johnson is out, Chase Edmonds might be my highest owned. Well, he will be my highest owned player. Now, will he? I don't know if he'll be my number one, like in every lineup. I don't know if he'll be in every lineup, but there's a potential that he's in 100% of my 150 lineup. Like it might happen. I like him. I like him anyway. He's a decent running back. He's just behind DJ, who's a really good running back. And that offense, that Atlanta's dog, they're just terrible, dude. It doesn't matter who they play, they get scorched. They give up tons of points. Just the only way I'm not playing Chase Edmonds is if I'm just playing Kyler Murray with Larry Fitzgerald and Christian Kirk. Like that's probably the only way I'm not playing him. I don't really touch David Johnson either way, and I still will have Chase Edmonds lineups if David Johnson plays. Not a ton of them, probably like that 3 to 4%, which in 150 still a few, but that's where I'm at with those guys. Yeah, that was basically the little flyers I wanted to talk about. Do you have any like super cheap guy that you like at running back?
Not really. Running back. I'll talk about people that I'd fade a little bit. So
Oh,
I
yeah.
probably, I mean, it's not a major thing if you don't fade them, but I'm probably going to steer clear of San Fran this week, even though they run the ball extremely efficiently. There's so many mouths to feed right now, and I don't know who it's going to be.
Yeah.
I really don't. I really like the way Brader runs, but also Tevin Coleman played with Shanahan in Atlanta. He went and got him for a reason. I got to imagine there's going to be a huge timeshare there, but Raheem Mostert or whatever his name is, he's been in the mix, double-digit touches or close to it each game. So I probably fade San Fran, even if you like the matchup, which you probably don't because it's the Rams. But I'm probably fading Joe Mixon, even though I think he's a great running back against Baltimore. Joe Mixon is, I think he's he's up in the top, and to me, he's a top 10 talent at running back, but his team is garbage, unfortunately. And I probably also fade Kansas City's running backs because I just don't ever know who it's going to be. I don't ever think it's going to be the running game for Kansas City. It's going to be those wheel routes or those screen passes or things like that. And I don't know if it's going to be LaShawn McCoy or Williams. So out of people I fade, I probably fade those the most.
Okay. I'm with you with Joe Mixon. I'm also with you on the San Francisco running backs, but I'm not with you on fading Kansas City running backs. I was just looking through which I looked through this earlier, but I'm just gonna run it on what's it called? What's this site? Football Outsiders real fast. Last week for the snaps for running backs. Wait, this is the wrong week. I'm a bot. Don't worry about me. Let me get here. Here we go. So Damian Williams, actually he was on 35 offensive snaps, compared to 14 and 14 for Darrell Williams and LaShawn McCoy. He had 9 carries, which is what he was getting prior to him going down. And he also was in the passing game again. He got 4 targets. I just like him just as a different play. I don't hate him. I'm gonna have some of him. I won't have any like LaShawn McCoy. LaShawn McCoy had no carries last week. Neither did Darrell Williams or Darrell Williams, however you want to say it. It was just all Damian Williams with carries. So I'm not gonna stay clear of them specifically, but And also on the flip side, Houston, I might throw a couple Duke Johnsons in there. You never know, baby. But all right, let's get out of there.
All right.
Let's go to wide receiver. There's super great plays this week all over the stinking board. Who's your number 1 receiver this week?
What's that?
Who's your number 1 receiver this week?
Oh man, I feel like I'm a broken record with this one. But it could be a toss up, but I'm gonna go DeAndre Hopkins.
Okay.
Against Houston. Or I'm sorry, Kansas City.
Yeah. Okay.
Hey, I argue this all the time. That he's the best receiver. I think the last couple weeks, especially last week, was it last week that Will Fuller went off?
Yes.
Okay. I think defenses cannot ignore the other receivers in Houston and strictly focus on DeAndre Hopkins. If anything, Houston's receiving core has just increased DeAndre Hopkins' value, and his price went down. So I think value there. The other route is to go as Julio Jones. Those two, I don't think you go wrong either way. But those two are my top receiver. I'll just put them at 1 tied. The matchup says play me. The price tag on DeAndre screams play me. Julio's 8,000, which is a bit much. Either way you go, I don't think you're going to have a bad game.
Yeah, I agree. I like them both. I was actually just looking through because I don't get prepared before shows for some reason. But did you know how? Just quick question. Do you know how many targets Will Fuller had last week?
I do not.
You're about 16 targets, bro. Last week.
Jesus.
16. He caught 14 of the 16. Yeah,
that's impressive.
That's nuts.
I don't expect that to be another outcome.
No.
Like that. I don't think Will Fuller has a game like he had last game. I think he comes back down to earth a bit.
I agree.
Not that he's not a good play. I'll just put this out there right now. So I have this little thing written down that just a pivots, right? So if you weren't going to play some of those guys, and in there, pivot, I have written any of Houston's wide receivers.
Okay.
Literally any of them. Will Fuller, you can play QT shot. I think any of them. If you're strapped for money, any of their receivers are a good opportunity.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think I'll get to Cutie this week. He's only
Yeah,
projected 4 points. Um, he might be there in the end. He might get a few into some of my crunches. Um, I think Will Fuller will be over-owned just because of what happened last week. Not saying that he can't, like you said, he can still have a great game, but he's going to be over-owned. Like if we were going in off last week coming into this game, he would be not in the top five. Well, let's see. Is he top five? I think he is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, he's the fifth. He's projected the number 5 overall receiver right now. Ownership wise, which is at 12.4. I guess it's tied with DJ Chark. Um, he would not be that high. He would be up there, like probably around 9 to 10, but he would definitely not be where he's at. I think Hopkins is the best wide receiver as well this week. Um, Houston or Kansas City's defense doesn't look bad, but they are bad. Um, they cannot stop. For one, nobody can stop DeAndre Hopkins. Only um, Deshaun Watson not throwing him the ball can basically stop him. You can triple coverage him, and I wish we had him in Detroit. You know, Stafford, he threw a triple coverage all the time to Calvin. We didn't care. You know, the dude's an animal. The only problem for me with DeAndre is that he is going to be the number one owned wide receiver, um, which kind of sucks because if we didn't have all these running backs hurt, it would be harder to get to him. But with
very
all
true.
these running backs hurt, you got Malcolm Brown cheap, you got Chase Edmonds probably cheap. Like the AP play, people are gonna notice that play a little bit, and hopefully it doesn't trend upward, but it could. Um, there's just so much cheap stuff. What I really hope happens is Tyreek Hill plays because that will take some ownership off DeAndre Hopkins because of the price point. Um, and I will be all over him. But up there, I like Julio too. I like Cooper Cup every week. I'll always play Cooper Cup no matter who they're playing. I think he's one of the most underrated wide receivers in the league, and to me he's really good, if not great. He's top 10 in my opinion in the whole league. So I'll have a little bit of him, but then again, he's the second highest owned guy. Like it's just who are you gonna take? Who knows? It's just all over the board. Um, there's a guy I wanted to mention. How do you feel about Odell?
I put him on my list.
You did? So
So
go ahead.
OBJ, go ahead. I'll let you start this off.
Well, I'm gonna start it off by saying I don't like him this week. He is projected to be the number 4 highest owned player. And if you tell me that Cleveland can keep Seattle's front four from getting to Baker Mayfield within 3 seconds, I think you're lying to me. Now, with that being
I
said,
get it.
I like Jarvis Landry because of he's more of the slot guy. OBJ he catches passes on quick slants and stuff, but I think Jarvis Landry could see 10 to 15 targets this week because Baker's going to be getting smacked instantly because their offensive line is just not together right now. But with that being said, I might have a few Odell's one-offs here and there, but probably not getting to him. I kind of like to fade him this week.
Yeah, I won't say I love Odell as a play, even though he's one of the best receivers in the league. Um, the intrigue here is you're never going to see Odell cheaper than where he is right now. He at 6,800, maybe he creeps down to 65 if he has another bad week. I don't think he gets much lower than that ever. If he has a good game, I think he gets back up in the 7,000s. I think that's the intrigue. That's also reflecting, I think, on the ownership. I think people are saying the same thing. I think they're saying, wow, Odell's only 6,800. Like, that's a good play. So I can absolutely understand fading it based off of the performance. And Cleveland, you're right. Just get smacked in the backfield immediately. Um, I probably will have Odell in a few just because the talent is there. And if they can get the ball in his hands, he can make things happen.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree.
so I mean that's my 10 cents on Odell. I don't love the play. I don't hate the play. If you feel like taking a shot on Odell, take a shot on Odell. Just do it knowing that Cleveland offensive line is terrible and Mayfield has thrown more interceptions than I think anybody in the league right now.
Anybody since he started playing games last year.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I'm just gonna stay away from Odell a little bit. I mean, I'll be on him, but I'm gonna be nowhere near the field on ownership.
Yeah.
Um, and I
I
think
didn't have
people.
many go ahead.
I was just gonna say I don't think many people, I think another reason why he's getting owned so much is people are like, there's no way he's gonna have another bad game. But yes, it can
Oh
happen. As a
man.
receiver, it
Yeah.
can happen. Like
Don't think that way
yeah,
because
so
it's not necessarily up to it's that offense.
yeah, and
The
it's
offense
Baker's
should
got
be
to get it
powerful.
there, and it's just so many factors. That's why having running backs at flex, which we kind of talked about a little before the show, is more of a steady, maybe a more of a controlled floor. I guess we could say, like you
Hmm.
can kind of gauge what you're going to not get or like not get. You know what I mean? Like you're not going to get a zero from a running back most of the time, unless he gets hurt.
Yeah, pending injury.
But
Yeah,
there's a
injury is
receiver
about the
like
only
you
way.
can put OBJ at your flex and come up with this kind of game right here, where you get 6 points or you get 4 points. Like that's terrible. Like you're not winning any tournament with that. You know what I mean? So just be wary of the Cleveland receivers. Even good old I can't think of his name. Jeez, I got it written down. Landry. Jeez. Um it's just you gotta just be careful. Any other flyer receivers or any receivers that you have down here?
Oh man, I think the receivers are the most intriguing this week. Um, so I'll shoot through my list real quick, and if there's some that stand out to you, I'll talk about one in particular that stands out. But Larry Fitz I like against Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
I think that'll be a good play. Atlanta's defense is terrible. DeAndre Hopkins, Julio Jones. Those are my most um,
Owned?
reliable plays I think
Okay.
this week. And then I don't mind pivoting off of Julio or DeAndre because they're going to be high owned into Calvin Ridley or Sanu. Or like I said, Houston. I probably would pivot more off of Julio because, like you said, Will Fuller had a monster game last week. People are going to notice they're going to be higher on him than they would be normally. Um, so I think that hurts the pivot. Um, but the other pivot that I would go with, and I don't know why nobody gives this man love at all, but nothing against Cooper Kupp in any way. Play him if you got the money, but why not play Robert Woods if you don't? The dude gets almost 10 targets a game. He can put up numbers. I mean, he doesn't always, but he can. Um, I like him over any other. I like him over any other receiver on that team outside of Cooper Kupp. Obviously, Cooper's the man, but he comes in at 5,600. 9 targets, 15 targets, 8 targets, 13 targets. He had a 2 target game in week 2, which is pretty sad, but they also beat the brakes off New Orleans. So, that being said, for the price point and the opportunities, we know how Sean McVay is. They're going to throw the ball. Cup's going to have over 10 targets. Woods very well could have over 10 targets, especially without Todd Gurley playing. Why not?
Yeah, I agree.
Play them both. Play them both.
I don't. I probably won't get to Woods often. I'm not gonna play golf often though. That's probably why I won't get to Woods often. Um, I don't love it. I don't hate it either. You'll know if I hate it, I'll tell you. DJ Chark, I like a lot too for 5,500. Dude's getting just peppered with targets. That seems to be Gardner's man. At first, we all thought it was going to be Westbrook, but it's going to Chark, and Chark looks like he is for real. The kid looks like he can absolutely ball. So I'm excited about that because just seeing another young wide receiver that looks like he could potentially be, like I don't want to go out on, like and go overboard and say like a DeAndre Hopkins, but I can see this kid being more like an Alshon Jeffrey type. He's a solid, good receiver. Hopefully better than Alshon, but from there, there's just a lot of cheap plays in like the Kansas City game, the Houston game. Like you can get all over the place. There's a lot of high team totals this week, high game totals. So yeah, there's just a lot of value at receiver, I would say, more so than quarterback and running back, I would say. Um, Tight ends. I'm not gonna lie to you, brother. I'm on one, two, three, four, five, six, potentially five, depending injury news. All the top guys from Vernon Davis up, not Vernon Davis though, like from Mark Andrews up on DraftKings. I'm on. I'm not on all of them that much, but I will play all of them,
All right.
except for maybe George Kittle because he is kind of nicked up. We'll see how that goes game time.
Who's your number one guy here? If you had,
Um,
I know you play all of them, but if they're all the same price, who do you take?
it's it's got to be the best player the best tight end in the league.
You're going Kelsey, right?
Yeah, you almost have to, especially if Tyreek doesn't play.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I go definitely with probably Kelsey, but my number two
I
would be
I got
different.
Kelsey written down. So I didn't know this. Really, I was surprised by this stat, but Austin Hooper, I believe, is the highest scoring tight end right now.
Yep,
Um,
he definitely is. Yep, not by a ton, but he is.
not by a ton,
Yeah,
but it's impressive that I didn't know that. I wouldn't have expected it. To see him 2,000 less than Travis Kelsey is interesting.
definitely appealing.
Um, yeah, definitely appealing. I'm with you though. I'm high on all of these guys. Um, there there's not much outside of that. I did have one guy that maybe you want to consider. It's the only time you're playing this guy is if your price is just you need to make some money up. But um, it is it Swamy? Is that how you say his name?
Swaim.
Yeah, Swaim.
Yeah.
O'Shaughnessy is on IR as of this week, and Swaim comes in at 2,900. He should see almost all of the snaps. Um, that's definitely worth a shot. Jeremy Sprinkle is probably fade this, but if you want to take a shot, Sprinkle's 2,600, and I don't think they have another tight end.
They have to have
Vernon,
somebody.
yeah, maybe
Nobody
they pick
important
somebody up, but
enough
not
to worry
anybody
about.
worth playing.
Yeah.
So 2,600. Vernon's out. Jordan Reed's out, so he's not coming back this year, maybe ever.
Yeah.
But
Sucks.
Swaim maybe just shot in the dark. Outside of that, I think it's pretty cut and dry.
Yeah.
The top six, or five or six. Where are we at?
Yeah. It's like
Hooper,
pretty
Kittle,
set.
Kelsey, Andrews, and Ertz. That's about it, right?
Yeah.
You play some Will Disley?
Oh, dude, listen, I'm a huge Will Disley fan. I think that dude
Big.
is so underrated, and he will probably be my. I guess going by stacks because I'm gonna run a lot of game stacks and stuff. How I do with my groups and stuff. He will
Mm-hmm.
probably be second lowest owned. No, third lowest owned. So it'll be definitely TK, Austin Hooper, and then Disley. But I
Okay.
really like Disley as like a just a kind of a pivot off these other guys because these are basically the only ones getting ownership this week. It goes 26.8. So Hooper's number one owned, then Kittle, then Kelsey, Andrews, Ertz, Disley, and then from there, bro, it's literally nothing. Like there's percentages going to like Gerald Everett, Noah Font. Jordan Akins. Maybe Akins, just because he's gonna be in that game, in that Houston game. But
Hmm.
everybody else, I'm definitely gonna be probably over the field on the 7.2% of Will Disley. Um, I like the guy. Think he's a beast. He looks like a bigger, uglier Justin Bush to me. Um, it's yeah. But I'm cool with any of these guys. Uh, yeah. It's just Hooper's so high owned, but why not, right? Definitely.
Yeah, it's hard to get off these guys. More than likely, one of these guys is going to be the top scoring tight end. It's possible that they're not, but
Yeah.
more than likely,
Yeah.
one of these six is
Yeah, I
going to
would
be the
say
top.
like 85, 90% chance that those guys are the high. One of those guys are the highest scorers. Those no offense to anybody else in the league, but those are probably the only talented tight ends that are really good. You know what I mean? Tight end is
Yeah,
you got some really great tight ends, and then you have some just plain old I'm here to block tight ends. And I feel like
yeah,
that's how most of the league is we're just here to block.
a lot of them. Yeah,
Yeah.
pass catching tight ends that can block and pass. Um, I'm
Yes.
just pass, block and
Yeah.
catch.
Yeah, pass.
Yeah, you know what I meant. Um, yeah, it's so few and far between. This is the new running back. This is the new pool that is so
Yep.
dwindled that it comes down to, if you're talking year long fantasy, if you don't jump on one of these guys early, you're sitting without. You're playing waiver wire each week, just saying, where's my matchup that I can maybe
Yeah.
throw somebody.
I agree. And we'll mention sorry. Ivan Ingram is in that group. He's just not playing.
Yeah,
Um
I would throw a couple others in there. There's Evan Ingram. There's I'm liking what's his name from Oakland,
Oh
Darren
yeah, Darren
Waller's
Waller.
been
He's a wide receiver. They gonna put his ass back in there. I like
uh,
Hawkinson too. It could be because I'm a homer, but if he quits jumping and getting smashed to the floor, he's pretty decent. And we
yeah,
have some decent ones, mid tiers, but there's the upper tier, and we should all know who them are.
for sure.
Where you at on defense? I know you normally have this one defense that you like to run with, and wasn't it Atlanta last week? Or
Um,
which one got you
no,
smoked? Which one was it?
my defense, the way I ran my defense for the most of the weeks is I will get my price range, because like last week I think my price range was like 2,400 or 2,600, somewhere in there, and maybe one or two defenses that I like in there. And I just kind of like stick around that. If I have the opportunity to go to a top tier defense, I will. But um, this week I have an interesting. I'm only going to talk about. Let me say this. I said it last time I was on the show with you. Um, don't base your team around your defense.
Right.
I would base your defense around your team. Take any defense can go off on any given day. Um, a block punt for a touchdown. The Patriots did it just the other day. The Patriots have been playing ungodly fantasy defense.
Because they
That's
don't
so
play anybody.
unnatural. Yeah, that's true. They don't play anybody, but it's so unnatural for that stuff to happen. You don't know when it's going to happen, who it's going to happen to, how it's going to happen. So base
Yeah.
your defense around your team, not your team around your defense. That being said, play if you got the money to play top tier defense, go for it. The defense I'm going to mention that I'm intrigued by, price point wise, I I would say the Jaguars. Um, Against New Orleans, it sounds like a bad matchup, but we may not have Alvin Kamara. They have Teddy Bridgewater, who again, I don't know if the guy can throw a long ball. I really don't. So I expect a lot of short dink and dunks like he's always done, all the way back to Minnesota. You have If Kamara doesn't play, I feel like you have one person to worry about, and that's Michael Thomas. That's it. So I'm intrigued by Jacksonville versus New Orleans. Um, for 2,200
Yeah.
on the lower end of the spectrum, I don't hate it.
Yeah. It's not a bad place to get to if you need it for a cheap spot. Like just to touch on what you were saying, so football is like the most volatile sport. Like the range of players that can go off is so big. And then at defense, it's literally like that times three. Like you don't know who's gonna. Anything could happen. A tip pass could be a touchdown instantly. The slate's broken by Philadelphia dropping 35 or New England dropping. It can happen anywhere. But obviously, if you can try to play it a little smarter, like thinking of pass rush maybe, because sacks mean quite a bit. Um, obviously, a bad quarterback against a pretty good pass rush is always a good thing to have. I'm very surprised. I mean, very surprised at the defenses who are. Actually, I'm not that surprised now that I'm seeing this. But maybe for the Vikings. I don't know why the Vikings are the number two, um, second in ownership, I would say. Are you looking at ownership at all? If not, I want you to guess who's number one.
I am. I
Okay.
see it,
Yeah.
and don't I don't hate it. I don't think the Jets defense is that bad. Um, their
Yeah.
team is bad, which makes it tough. Um, but I mean, if you look at so looking at their games, so they've been without a starting quarterback for what 3 weeks now. Um, they put up 18 points in week 1, 14 points in week 3. They haven't done anything like giving up negative points. They haven't went into the negative at all. So the Jets defense isn't a bad defense on paper. Their team is a good team defense. Um, Dallas isn't a great matchup for them by any means, but they're 1,500.
Yeah. That's
They're
why I
less
said,
than the
oh,
Bengals.
I didn't notice that. I didn't even know. Like this is swear to God, I didn't know defenses went past 2K. Not even lying. Didn't
Yeah,
know.
this week.
I don't. And then why is it them? Why isn't it the Bengals? Or something.
I
I don't.
understand it.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean, I
weird.
gotta say, it's gotta be that they think that Dallas is gonna put up the amount of points.
Yeah.
But I've also seen Dallas not do that. What Dallas do last week?
They played Green Bay. It was
They
that.
played
It
Green
was
Bay.
that game.
Yeah, and
Dak turned the
I
ball
don't
over.
remember I don't remember how it went down,
I
but
think
Green Bay
he threw three
won
picks. Yeah.
3 picks. So Green Bay can get 3 picks. I think the Jets have a better defense than Green Bay does. Um, I think Green
I
Bay's
don't know.
offense helps their defense a little bit, but it is it's an intriguing one.
Yeah.
I don't hate it. 1,500. If I gotta get there to free up some money, I'll do it. This is
Yeah.
the only time. This is the first time in DFS this year that I've looked at the bottom team, and if for those that don't know how I do my defense, before I do anything, I go in, I put the bottom defense in my line. That's the money I maximum money I can work with, right? Because I don't build my team around my defense. I build my defense around my team.
Other way
So
around.
I put yeah, however you want to, however I say it. My defense is not determined before my team is determined. So I'll just put the worst defense in there, the cheapest defense, build my team, and then I will pick my defense based on what I have available. Um, this is the first week though that I would be comfortable actually leaving it that way if I had to.
Okay. Yeah. Normally it's you're playing against somebody with like going against Kansas City and stuff like that, which is yeah, you just don't want
Yeah.
to target that game. Um, with that being said, I do have a favorite defense this week, and it's gonna be probably everybody's favorite. The problem is it's so expensive that not many people are getting to them, which is Dallas against the Jets.
Oh, okay.
Because if you look at what the Jets gave up last week, that's the reason why a lot of us didn't cash. They gave up 35
So
fantasy points to the dang Philadelphia Eagles defense. And
so Sam Darnold didn't play last week.
no, is he playing this week?
I believe he's expected to play.
Oh, well, that's a little different then. But
Let's talk
still,
about it. Let's
let's
go
see.
look at Sammy. He doesn't even have a. Yeah, he will start.
Oh, nice.
Um,
Okay, well, that's a lot different then. I guess that's why they're so under owned. But then again, it might be why I target them a little bit more than normal because they are 4,300. But if you can get there, I would get there, in my opinion. Um,
yeah, I like the Ravens again. You don't like the Ravens
yeah, I
against
do. No,
Cincinnati?
I definitely do.
Yeah.
It was just my number one was going to be Dallas, but now it's not probably my number one. So what I've been doing, well, I'm doing it now, is I'm going through and every team I don't like, even though it's so volatile, I will uncheck them in my pools so they
Okay.
don't get taken. Um, just because the matchups, it is what it is. If that kills me, it kills me. It's just what I'm doing from now on. I'm doing that with tight end as well and quarterback. All running back and wide receiver, I'm not touching. But
Yeah, I won't uncheck anything because I'll pick my. Yeah, I guess I see what you're saying. If you're gonna do it in pools,
yeah,
um, man, I'm just looking at this defense. It's not something I spend much time on ever, but there's some interesting plays. Like I wouldn't. And seeing the ownership percentages is curious as well. Like the Jets being the highest owned, the Jaguars are all the way up at 8.2%. So
yeah,
clearly, I'm not the only one that felt that way. Is
yeah.
that the second highest? That is
Third.
no third. So Vikings against Philly. Um, but like I'm not opposed to a Dolphins play here either. Even though they're a terrible team, they're god awful. They're playing a god awful team with a new coach who wants to run the ball.
Who's starting for
Um,
Washington? Is it Colt again?
I believe it is Colt.
Okay. If it was Dwayne
Uh,
Haskins, I'll be all in. I'll start the Dolphins defense. I don't care who's playing on the opposite side.
Dwayne Haskins. Um, the Redskins defense against that's pretty high. I don't. I'm not high on Redskins defense. Even if I can get to them, I don't think I play it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm all over the board. I have a few unchecked. The Dolphins are unchecked in my pools. Just because I don't see them doing much. I also
Okay.
I have the Saints unchecked, and I don't know why. I actually don't think I meant to do that, but I might keep it like that. I have Atlanta checked.
Do you uncheck Chiefs and Houston?
I do have the Houston and Chiefs both checked. That I am gonna
You're
use both of them.
you're gonna you're gonna keep them.
Yeah.
Oh man,
Wait, I'm not using Houston. I am using Kansas City
but you'll use the Chiefs.
because Houston's offensive line is terrible.
Okay.
Um, and they will probably be behind and have to chuck the ball around and maybe catch some picks. But I'm just defense doesn't matter to me. It is what it is.
Gosh,
They get in there, they get in.
I can't believe Cincinnati is 5.5% owned. That's
That's the
absurd to
scariest
me.
thing. Yeah, but
God, they're so bad.
yeah. So basically, in my opinion, Vince will probably feel the same way. If you're game stacking for both teams, target the ones I mentioned prior to this. Well, basically when the show started. Kansas City, Houston. We have Atlanta, Arizona, and probably San Francisco and the Rams. There's obviously other teams you can use in there, and do like the Seahawks or whatever, maybe Baltimore. Um, so if you're doing a game stack those team stacks. Do Baltimore, Kansas City, Houston, probably, Falcons, Cardinals. Play good players, man. I've starting to realize that saying is actually real. Like you need to do that. You start playing the random people, like the bad, the third string tight end. It just seems to never pan out anymore. Um, I was all over some players last week that were just terrible, and they didn't do anything. Um, I'm starting to just fade all that. I'm starting to just play good players. If they're high owned, they're high owned. I'm gonna be part of the high ownership. Um, basically, just build your lineup smartly. We mentioned this. I'll mention it again this week. Don't play Adrian Peterson with Colt McCoy. Don't play Chris Carson with Russell Wilson. Just don't do it. Even if they both do good, it's not a smart building strategy. Um, there's select few running backs that don't really apply to that rule. The Christian McCaffreys of the world, Fournette at this point now, I would say, just because he's on the field all the time. Kamara is another one. Um, what else can we say? My I think Vince is with me on this for the most part. If you're playing a quarterback, try to correlate it with a receiver. And if you're feeling frisky and you're playing with the Kansas City quarterback, try to get the tight end and a receiver just because they could drop 40 on anybody. It doesn't matter who they are. Um, I always correlate like when I stack, I always stack quarterbacks, wide receivers, and maybe a tight end, depending on, or just a tight end or just a receiver. Um, that's basically where I'm at. Play good players, try things out, try different things that you never tried before with stacking. Just don't do crazy stuff where you take two wide receivers and the tight end like from the same team. You could do, it's just play smart, win money. Let's do it. Any last thoughts on the slate, Vinny?
I'll touch on just a couple things. Now, I think I agree with you on most of that stuff. Game stack. I think Houston, Kansas City is going to be a really popular game stack. If you wanna kind of veer away from that at all, I think Atlanta, Arizona is a nice game stack as well. Um, Arizona is not being talked about much. Maybe throw some Kyler Murray in there with stacking with Larry Fitz, and I think between the two games, he's the lower owned of those quarterbacks. Wouldn't be a bad little stack in there if you're going to game stack a game. I don't think there's many other games that I'd really mess with game stacking in general. Um, but yeah, I agree. Stack a core. If you're going to have a quarterback, the only quarterback that I'm not stacking with a receiver this week, if I'm taking out of 32 quarterbacks, the only quarterback I'm probably not going to stack with a receiver is Lamar Jackson, if any. And I may stack him with a receiver or a tight end.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's not enough value to not do it. The only reason Lamar Jackson pans out in that scenario is because that dude will run for 100 yards and have 2 rushing touchdowns. And that's the only reason. But even if you say, okay, Deshaun Watson runs the ball a lot, he also throws the ball a lot, and he scores throwing the ball a lot. So to not have the receiver that's catching those touchdowns is a mistake. If you're going to if you're going to play Deshaun Watson, stack the receiver. I agree. Don't typically stack a running back with your quarterback or a running back with a receiver and your quarterback, unless it's Christian McCaffrey or somebody like that. Play good players. There's going to be situations where you do take a shot on a player, but make sure it's an educated shot, not just a shot in the dark. And then,
And not in
uh,
all of your lineups.
yeah, not in all your lineups. And that's something I mentioned last time. Last little bit here is don't make sure your lineups make sense to you. Don't put somebody in just because you can put them in, because you can afford them. Make sure it makes sense to you. So perfect example this week might be OBJ. If you don't love that play, don't play him just because he's OBJ and you can afford it. If you we'll just go into the receiver pool here real quick. In OBJ sits at 6,800. If you like Larry Fitz better this week because of the matchup against Atlanta, don't jump up to OBJ for the extra 700. You can leave it on the table. Maybe your defense can use an improvement. But if you have your defense and the team looks good and you say, "Oh, I've got 700 extra to play with," don't just switch off Larry Fitz to play OBJ.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a smart move. If it doesn't make sense, now if you like OBJ or maybe you've got a ton of Larry Fitz and you want to pivot, okay, I get it. But don't if you're doing a single entry and you're like, "Oh, I got an extra 700." Multiple reasons. One, you picked Larry Fitz for a reason because the matchup's right. Two, everybody else does that. Everybody tries to maximize their dollar amount. So if you put that in, somebody else has that lineup in. So if you win, you probably ain't winning your maximum amount because you didn't go with your gut and play the right play. And leave $700 on the table. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I
I,
I agree with that kind of stuff. It doesn't matter to me, but a lot of times, we talk about this with like especially showdowns. That's a huge thing. Like if you spend the allotted amount, you will if you win first place, you're not winning it alone. You're winning it with half of the people in the pool. Um, don't be scared to leave money on the table in this. If you build a lineup and you only use 48,000 and there's 2,000 in your pocket when you're done, that's fine. You do not need $50,000 salary to win first place. Just not a thing. It's okay. Sometimes yeah, it works, but I like where his head's at with that one. Just build it right. I try my hardest to reap on the kind of building strategies that I use. I'm not always right. I don't always win. Um, I think the pro fantasy players only win about 30% of their lineups. That's not good, but it's also they maximize their wins when they do win. Um, Play good players, man. Pay attention to injuries late. Make sure you pay attention to Tyreek Hill, David Johnson, and Alvin Kamara. Those are huge. If Tyreek's in, get him in your lineups. If David Johnson's playing, try to avoid him if you can. Um, and if Kamara's playing, I'm still avoiding him either way. But you can definitely play him because he's a stud. If they're not playing, look at the elsewhere. That's when you maybe sprinkle in Pringle. If Hill's in, there's no reason to play Pringle. Um, Chase Edmonds, if DJ's out, I told you I will have him in a ton of mine. And
Yeah,
then
I wouldn't.
go ahead.
Just real quick, I wouldn't play Pringle at all if Hill's playing.
Yeah,
I
not
don't
at all.
expect him to get into the rotation. I think it goes right back to, he's still pecking order. He's still, fourth man on the chart there, fifth if you count Kelsey.
Kelsey, yeah, I agree. So yeah, play good players. We appreciate you guys, viewing the video and hanging out and taking our advice. And just because we say it does not mean it is right. I was high a few weeks ago on what was Arizona's third receiver, Demir Bird. Dude dropped like 1.6 points. And if so, we put out these videos. So our words out there, and like something doesn't produce. I personally feel bad, but like anything can happen. Anybody can go off at any time. We're giving you our best educated guess by the numbers and our thoughts, basically. So yeah, play good players, play smart, build right. If you have any questions, if you know us personally, feel free to call us, text us, Facebook message, Twitter. It doesn't matter for me at least. He's too old. He don't have Twitter. Um, basically that's it. We appreciate you guys hanging out. If you can, like the video, any comments below. I'll try to answer them before the slate starts tomorrow. Um, yeah, subscribe to the channel, and hopefully we can get Vincent back some more. Vince, we appreciate you hanging out and blessing us with your great football knowledge and that pretty sweet Khalil Mack jersey.
Yeah, anytime, man. Anytime. I'm happy to be on. I'm happy to talk about. I enjoy talking football, so now I just got to put some lineups in because I'm late to get them in.
All right, buddy. And we will see you guys next time, hopefully next week. So see you next time.